So consider this statement before we begin today. The pace of change that you're currently experiencing today will be the slowest that it will be for the rest of your life. If the first thing that you do in the morning, when you first wake up, is bleary-eyed reach to your side table and pick up a device and look at it, sit down. So there's half the room, ladies and gentlemen. So the way we live, the way we engage with the world of technology has changed forever. Those who are standing, we don't actually need to know what you do in the morning, so take a seat. Today I'm hoping to challenge you to consider the impact that the internet has on your brand from an office perspective, but most importantly, your brand from an individual's perspective. Consumers are now expecting information to be presented to them in a very different way to the way we've done it historically. Consumers are also wanting more information, more and more. An example of Air New Zealand, in-flight safety demonstrations, has anyone seen them online? So they took the same information, a bit mundane, a bit boring, but pretty important, and they just spruced it up. So they made a brand now that's irreverent, fun, still serious. They had the All Blacks, they had their own staff in full body paint. I'll give you the tip, a lot of people watch that one. They had the cast of Lord of the Rings, they had Richard Simmons, the aerobics guy. So what they did was take the message that was incredibly important and build on a brand that made people want to relate to that brand. Hands up anyone in the room who's hired an employee over the last 12 months. Yeah, quite a large number of you. So in the US, 75% of employers research prospective employees online before they hire them. They're looking to see not just the information that's on a resume, they're looking to see what that individual is like, how they present themselves to the broader market. If you've not set up Google Alerts, I highly recommend that you do that today. A Google Alert gives you the ability to know what's being said about you. This one's going to sort a few of you out. If you've never conducted research on an ex-partner or prospective partner, that's a boyfriend or a girlfriend online, if you never have, sit down. Stay standing, don't sit down yet, don't sit down. All right, you thought about that. So the stalkers can all take a seat, thank you very much. Ponder this, Facebook had 1 billion unique people visited their website on one day. And those 1 billion people spent, on average, 21 minutes on Facebook. So you can look transparent or you can look like this. And I'd hazard a guess that there's a number of people in the room who actually look like this online. And it's quite a humorous image, but it's pretty serious when you think about it. And the old way versus the new way. So this is my favourite. So I'll take you back to, let's call it 1989. It's a Sunday evening. It's Casey Kasem's American Top 40. You've got one cassette player there. You've got another one that's playing the radio just there. You've got your fingers on the record button and you're waiting for A, Casey Kasem to stop talking so that you can get the start of the song, and B, if your sister walks into the room, all hell is about to break loose. And if you don't get that song, you're going to have to wait till next Sunday. And hopefully it's going to be at about number 4 because that's where it was the week before. So then you take your cassette. For the young ones in the room, this is how it used to roll. You take your cassette and you pop it into your Walkman. All right, and if you've got a really cool Walkman, by the time it got to the end of the tape, it would just automatically go back and start the new side. How cool was that? The iPod sold 7 million units in its first 12 months. Now that revolutionised the way we consume music. Who's a member of LinkedIn? Yeah, it's probably just about half of the room. So LinkedIn is effectively a professional version of Facebook. The power of LinkedIn, and if I look at the Adam Joski example, the power of LinkedIn is that I can see the network that we share. Nobody saw Tinder coming because nobody knew that it was actually coming. It was app-based, it was easy, and when they launched, it was free. So that market has now changed forever. 70% of 3-year-olds in Australia have a digital footprint. That doesn't mean that they've just stepped on your iPad. That is 70% of all 3-year-olds in Australia have had something written about them, a video or a photo posted that's searchable on Google. So if you think you're not online, and if you think you've not been spoken about, I assure you, think again and find out, because there is a plethora of information about you out there. So we're now talking about a city where they might have thousands of drones in the air, and hopefully they're not colliding, and they're dropping products off to people's houses. So this is being built at the moment. So what we might have thought was going to be happening in 15 years is happening right now. So what used to happen is if you wanted money, you'd pop on your best jacket, your tie, you'd get your business plan, you'd walk down to the bank and you'd say, Mrs. Bank Manager, I need $50,000 because I've got a great idea. And they'll assess that and decide on whether they give you the 50 or don't. They won't give you more, but they may not give you anything. Now, if you've got an idea, you can go to the World Wide Web, pitch your idea, and people will give you money for it. But they want something in return. It's a fantastic review of an individual who's basically said we can send the Curiosity to Mars, which is 158,234,859 miles away, but I can't get coverage on the Gold Coast. And it's about Vodafone. So that review had been shared or liked 19,500 times, and 775 people made comments. And they made comments basically agreeing with that review. So there's a fair likelihood that the people who have read that aren't necessarily likely to jump onto the Vodafone bandwagon anytime soon. So think about what's being said about you and get on the front foot and make sure you address that information. When you've caught an Uber, it's not some sort of random disease, it's a car. The car is driven by you or me, anybody. The cars are clean, they provide water, they provide mints, they probably have mobile phone chargers. You don't transact with the driver at all, no money changes hands. Now Uber doesn't own any cars. What does Uber have? An app and a truckload of traffic, that's all. Uber is now worth more money than 406 of the top 500 organisations in the US. It's now valued at $48 billion. If you wanted to be a taxi driver in Melbourne in 2012, you'd buy a licence plate. Does anyone want to hazard a guess at how much a licence plate cost in Melbourne in 2012? $470,000, that's pretty close. Do you know how much it costs to be an Uber driver? How much do you reckon those plates are worth now? Now, great for us as consumers, right? We've got a provider that comes along that changes for the better. The taxi industry needs to get better. The challenge that we're now faced with is that there's a competitor who turned up almost overnight, barely advertises, word of mouth is what they rely on, and it now represents 6% of all booked taxi fares in Australia. So I hope I've challenged you a little bit, and I really thank you very much for your attention.